Hey everybody, today is Women's Equality Day, and I couldn't think of a better way than to spend our second episode on this historic day than with two of my very best friends. They are the sister duo, who are also Liberian-born, United States bred, Maryland to be exact, who are the co-founders of Dope Africans and MVD Inc. If you don't know them from those iconic brands that they've already built, you may know them for their visionary work behind Kanye West, to Netflix, to Paramount Pictures, to PepsiCo, and even the GRAMMYs, my former home and where I sit on the board. You may also know them for their iconic cover that just dropped. I think I have the exclusive interview on Forbes Morocco. They landed the cover of Forbes not just because of their beauty, but also because of their substance. They put in the work when no one's watching. They're the ones who have built some of the most iconic brands, but they stay behind the scenes. And so this is an exclusive peek and conversation with the two sisters who have truly taken the world and the industries by storm. Welcome to the show, Miatta Johnson and Massah David.
Wow.
Hey, that was a
fabulous
intro.
I could have kept going, but
that intro was crazy.
demure, humble, but not really. I think about our friendship
Yes.
and our sisterhood, and we have been friends now for what, over 20 years?
Definitely over 20 years.
Absolutely.
At least.
At least 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think so often people look at us and our friendship and they feel like, oh, is this just an industry bond? Or do they just get along because they support each other's work? But we know, and if we could talk about it, when we met, we came from humble beginnings.
Yes.
So who wants to tell the story?
Well,
I know. You can tell we're sisters. We look at each other.
we always look at each other because she normally takes this. So go for it, Miatta, and then I'll add a little sauce.
Big
I don't even
sister
know when we
energy.
started, when we met each other, because I know we met each other through the industry.
Yeah.
We were both grinding, all three of us grinding in the music industry, not knowing what we were doing, but figuring it out, hustling. You were I think you were working with Russell, yeah. And we had just started MVD. Yeah. And we just connected on just the way that we'd move, whether it was integrity, figuring it out, and we just connected. And connected on a deep level.
On a deep level.
Yeah.
On a deep level, for sure.
And I remember the New York days, me working as an intern, working my way up, and seeing you all out at events. And I had no idea that we were the same age, first of all. Because the way you just moved like bosses, you would have never known that you were so young, moving the way that you were moving. And then when you started your company, MVD Inc., I was in awe. And I think that's why it was special for me to have you here on this episode, because the topic of the entire podcast is Tables Turned. But Miatta, you came from finance and Wall Street. Massah, you came from the music industry. We had a similar beginning working for labels.
Yes.
So Massah, talk to us about, how did you make that leap from working for someone to ultimately co-founding your agency?
I think for me, it's always been really important to have a gut check and follow my instincts and trust in where God is leading me. And I think starting off in the music business, I came into it not exactly knowing what I wanted to do, but I knew who I wanted to be like. And I think a lot of people came into the industry that way. So I worked my way through management, and then I worked at a record label, and I was doing A&R at the time. And it just wasn't really speaking to me the way that I thought it would. And this was a really pivotal point for me in the industry. One of my mentors that I was working for at the time, I just wasn't thriving in that position. And he really was not happy with me in the way that I was showing up at all. Let's just say that.
What were you giving, Massah?
I was giving timid. I was giving not Massah at all. I was just very shy, and I just didn't feel comfortable in that space. And he was a big personality. He wanted me to be like this boss. And at that time, I just didn't feel that. And I made it a point, but I was nice to everyone. We got along, and that's not who he wanted me to be, like a bulldog. And I shifted from that. I found out that I was going to be fired. And everyone at the label loved me, though. And Cheryl, she worked in marketing and she was heading marketing at the time. And she was like, I think you would do well in marketing. And they created a position for me. And that was honestly a great lesson in treat people with the way you want to be treated. And it doesn't matter what anyone tells you, but treat people the way that you want to be treated. And because of that, they created that position for me. So I worked in marketing. I thrived, but I was coming up with concepts and ideas that they just weren't ready to put money behind. Mm-hmm. And that's when Miatta and I started talking, and I was like moonlighting and working on the side, doing stuff for Kanye. And I just got the way that he thought. And it was lights out after that. I was like, I want to do this for myself. I don't want anyone to tell me, what is a great idea or what, money that should go behind, this campaign. I want to do that myself. So left and went with Miatta and just built up MVD, and it's been lights out ever since.
Okay, so Massah, I have to stay with you for a second.
Yeah.
You are, I'm going to say it because you would never say this about yourself. You're literally a genius. Like, literally a genius.
Facts. Absolutely.
Like, Miatta.
Yeah, sure.
Like, it's true. It's kind of freaky, right? Like, so we've spent time together doing pretty cool things. And Miatta and I are going deep about something, right? Like did you read this book the other day? Miatta's like, have you heard about this podcast? And Massah's just staring into space. Am I joking, Miatta?
No, that's her.
And literally has created the future while we're talking about the past.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, literally.
That's so true.
We were in France, and this is not a France flex, I promise. Like, we were in France last year, and again, Miatta and I are just talking about the past or maybe the present, just basic, normal conversation. And Massah's like, I see a vision, and it's in color, and I hear music and sound. So what do you actually see when you are building something that has become iconic, but we don't even know that it's in your head? Like, what are you actually thinking or seeing or smelling? Like, what does that look like in Massah David's brain?
It's honestly a zone. And I tell Miatta this all the time because I might, like, if we're working on a project and I'm like trying to come up with the concept, I'll think about what that is. I need music. Music is like, it fuels me, right? Gets me into a zone, but tapping into that zone, it's not, you can't teach it. It's hard to really explain it. I just get into a vibe and I just see it and I'm like, oh, it'll be this and that and we should put this over here. And that is literally like, when I get chills, I know that I'm doing what I'm meant to do. And that excites me. So it's like, it's hard to explain it because I can look at a blank palette and see exactly what it should become. And that is like, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
It's God. Gift. It's God, honestly.
It is a God-given gift. And to witness it is like something to behold. I mean, I get chills right now just watching you do what you do, just in awe.
It's so true.
Okay, I have one last story about Massah. So it was the Donda show in Atlanta. And my boss at the time, who's one of my very best friends, Harvey Mason Jr., who's the CEO of the Grammys, and his wonderful wife, Britt, we were like, all right, we're going to Atlanta. The girls invited us. We're going to Atlanta for the Donda show. And, I'm from Atlanta, Clark Atlanta University. And so although I wasn't born in Atlanta, I claim Atlanta as a bit of a second home because I spent a lot of time there as a college student. So I thought I knew Atlanta, and I definitely thought I understood the Atlanta Police Department, APD. And so for me, I remember pulling up to the arena. Well, it was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Yep. And it was just one of those nights. I mean, thousands and thousands of people, and we're in an SUV, Harvey, Britt, and I, just the three of us. And we're kind of pulling down to this underground actually hilarious. This underground area where you have to go down through security, the dogs, everyone sniffing the car out before you can have access. And I'll never forget pulling up to the Atlanta Police Department, and it's like a full security checkpoint before you can go down underground. And I remember Massah calling me like, where are you guys? Where are you guys? And I was like, we got stopped by the security checkpoint. She was like, no, keep going. And I was like, well, we can't.
They were
because
telling you to get out of the car.
They're telling us to get out of the car.
Yeah.
We popped the trunk. Like they're just running the standard check that everyone has to go through. And so I'll never forget. We couldn't keep going. And apparently the show was about to begin. I assumed that that's what was happening. And long story short, we became in a situation.
They wanted you guys to walk, which is insane.
They wanted us to get out of the car and walk down, and we had on heels, Britt and I. So they wanted us to get out of the SUV and walk down underground. And Harvey, Britt, and I started getting out of the car, and Massah said, "No, stay in the car." And literally, Harvey looked back at me and said, "Okay, it's a decision between the Atlanta Police Department and Massah David. Which one do we do?" And I said, "I gotta go with Massah." It's a true story. And we closed the door, and Massah walkie-talkie someone as the head of probably the chief of police at this point. Maybe it was the mayor, right, Andre. But whoever it was, everyone said, "Let them in," and you let them in. And that's the type of not only visionary that you are, but like magnetic and magnanimous personality that you are. I think you can literally stop traffic just with your presence without raising your voice, though, right? It's just you have a presence, a God-given presence that you command respect without demanding it. And so it's just beautiful to be your friend.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
So Miatta and I, on the other hand, are very similar.
You guys
say
are
that all the
twins.
time. We're twins.
You're twins. You're twin
We're very linear. Everything has to make sense. We love data.
We love data.
We love data. I mean, data is king, honey. You got to give us the numbers. And so, Miatta, you are from the financial district.
I know, the financial industry.
So you got to walk me through this. Like, tell us and everyone watching and listening what it took. It took me 25 years. What it took for you first, right? Because Massah joined you. So what were the steps? Because we're practical. Like, talk to us about the steps from saying, I'm going to leave this job in finance, right? I'm going to assume parents, family, all very proud of you, right? Like, oh my gosh, my daughter's in New York City working on Wall Street.
Yep.
What did it look like for you to finally decide to take that leap?
And I think I would give us credit. We follow the data, and we're all about data, but we also sometimes we leap first.
Yes.
And we trust God.
Yes.
And I studied journalism, just knew I wanted to be a reporter at first. So I went and I was one of those overachievers. We that's why we're twins. Overachievers. So intern at what was it, New York Daily News, all these different companies, and got a position at Dow Jones Newswires. Didn't think I was going to end up in finance, but I got there and I loved it for a while. It made sense. It looked great on paper. Parents were happy. They were like, we knew this was a track. It made sense. But I didn't feel alive. Yeah. I didn't feel alive. I felt like it was a job, and I got excited when I was moonlighting with shout out to Blue Williams and Barku. Shout out to Blue and Barku. I was moonlighting for them because I was a financial journalist and interviewing, which I can't remember now. It's crazy that at the time I was interviewing Jeff Bezos and people along those lines. It was
wow.
Because my job was to interview all these different founders and talk about their stock, talk about what they were going to do, and also write about just the markets. But I would rush after the markets closed at 4:00, would be ready to, and I'm up by 5:00. But I got excited when the markets closed because I was ready to then do my second job. And it was when I realized that I was excited about the latter part of the day, I knew that something had to shift. So it was, at the time I didn't know, and it was definitely being naive, but also having a lot of balls and audacity to think that I could do it on my own. Because I was moonlighting with Blue and Barku and basically helping them launch and do press for some of their artists, which was at the time, we didn't know how big Outkast was going to be, but I started actually moonlighting and doing press for Outkast, and understood at the time, I was looking and seeing that they were getting press in music, but I told them, I said, you have to think bigger. You have to think bigger. Why are they not getting press in, whether it's the Wall Street Journal, or why are they only placing them in Source? They should be in Rolling Stone. So I started kind of understanding how big the world was and how they were pigeonholing a lot of the artists, and understood at the time that that was my calling. So I just decided I was gonna just leap. And parents were not happy. Parents were not happy, but that pivot taught me a lot. And that pivot, afterwards, I used to tell our mom, rest in peace, that had I not left Dow Jones when I did, I might not be here. Because I used to take the E train every day to work. And I left Dow Jones in the spring of 2001. September 11 happened.
Wow.
I might not be here had I decided to stay. Yeah.
You know, 9/11 happened when I was in law school. A 1L in class.
Wow, we never talked about
We
this.
never talked about this.
Wow.
That's what moved me to New York.
Wow.
So I was in contracts class, contracts 1 or whatever it was, but as a 1L law student at North Carolina Central University School of Law in Durham. And the first tower was hit. Someone ran in the classroom and told us that. We all ran to a TV. The second tower was hit.
Wow.
And I mean, devastating. Called every friend I knew in New York City. And that day I knew I wanted to move to New York City. So I was like, life is too short.
Wow.
Yeah, so we share that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Miatta, I think about family and how important family and community is to you both. And as the oldest sister, I would imagine, like me, especially so, right? When you think about the responsibility that we often feel as being the oldest or the first to do a lot of things. So for you, and I know how special of a place Liberia is. I visited once with my dad when I worked for President Obama. And I remember the moment we landed, and I've shared this with you, in the small little plane, because, you know, you have to take the small plane to get down. And I just remember the moment we touched ground in country, in Liberia. My dad is a witness. Immediately I said, this feels different. This feels like home. And I traveled to maybe 10 countries on the continent prior to that. But it was the first time and only time I've ever felt that connected. And then as we became friends later, we didn't know each other at the time, but I met Barku there, your cousin. And she and I connected and had a nice experience together on while I was there. But later to learn and know the family and the history and the legacy that you have in Liberia, I think, well, I would love, because I don't think we've talked about this, how important has that grounding been to your success? Because I think often, right, we think, I'm doing it my own way, like I'm paving my own path. I've been guilty of that too. But now at this age, I can honestly say, I don't think I would be here doing what I do had it not been for our ancestors and my parents and grandparents. Like, things were just instilled in me that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, for you, what you think and feel Liberia and your family has granted you to even be able to do what you do with all of these big companies and brands.
I would say, yeah, the foundation.
Yeah.
It was definitely, they laid the groundwork and laid the foundation. And as you mentioned, even though we're moving and not realizing it, we saw it as the oldest, saw it early. Our father was, our uncle was the president of Liberia, and there was a coup d'etat in 1980, and that changed our lives forever. So having seen that, and even as a baby, you know, Massah was only months old and I was 4 years old, but he was killed. He was assassinated, and our father was the mayor of the capital city of Monrovia. He was jailed, and you don't know or you don't understand what's happening at the time, but you start seeing and you feel it and you see them guiding you throughout your life, even when they're not here. Our dad was, like I said, he was jailed and then tortured. When he finally got out, we sought political asylum. President Carter was a friend of Daddy's, and that was how we got out. But understanding that when he moved from Liberia to America, he didn't skip a step. All he understood was he had to provide for his family. And those kinds of things, when you see that at a young age and you see that your dad went from being the mayor of Liberia to being okay with selling shoes because he wanted to put food on the table, that does something to you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see that, you understand anything is possible once you have family. So I think there were so many different lessons that whether we understood it or didn't, we saw it at a very, very early age, and it's still with us.
Mm-hmm. Could we talk for a moment about Massah, who at just a few months old was
a month old.
Rescued?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
You don't, of course,
you
don't
want to talk about it?
Well, I don't remember, but and it's just to show you how like deep trauma runs, right? And on so many different levels. I didn't even hear this story because growing up, no one wanted to talk about the war. No one wanted to talk about what happened. But I would hear, different conversations and I would listen in, but never heard this story until I watched my brother give a speech. A commencement speech. And I'm watching this
Sounds
speech.
like Alfonso.
Sounds like Alfonso. And he's telling the story and how he vividly remembers that night. And, our mom ran into the room and told them, like, wake up, get ready. We have to go right now. They get ready. They're like in the middle of the night. They hear people, banging on the doors. They go out of the bathroom window. And I hope I'm remembering this right. Go out of the bathroom window. My father is like basically getting everyone out of the bathroom window. Like we have to move. And I'm a month old. And he's like, you're going to have to catch your sister, to my brother Alfonso. I'm thrown out of a window and Alfonso catches me and I don't cry. Now that instinct lets you know, like,
don't play with her.
You're in trouble. You gotta go. You gotta run and be quiet. Yeah. And I learned that, I guess, instinctually knowing that as a baby. But Fonso tells the story how he we had to run and go to my aunt's house, and when he looked back at the house, he saw them shooting in our beds. Like if we were minutes later, we wouldn't be here. So it's moments like that and hearing stories like that remind you God is he's always with us.
Always with us. Always with us. And you're here for a reason.
And you're here for a reason.
Like literally
you
here
got
for a
me
reason.
crying,
You're literally here for a reason. And even with all of that,
it's divine.
That's it.
It's divine.
Yeah.
Liberia is still, even with those memories, we still have great memories of where we came from.
Of course.
And people always talk about there's something in the water in Liberia because it was one of the first independent countries. It was never colonized. And before, in the 70s, a lot of musicians actually went to Liberia. That's where they sought refuge. Everybody from Nina Simone to we hear Stevie Wonder as well, because there's something really special and magical about Liberia.
It really is.
Yeah.
Speaking of magical, President Sirleaf Johnson, former President Sirleaf Johnson, Nobel Peace Prize winner, who the moment I met her, just one moment, several moments during that one trip, called me her daughter.
Wow.
And I just remember being so in awe of her kindness, right? And it stuck with me because I think of you both, and I think of how we as a friend and sister circle move.
Yes.
And, right, like so often we've seen a lot of our friends, even colleagues in the industry, like many of us were taught. That's why I never blame anyone when they move differently, right? But many of us were taught and came up, our generation, and maybe the generation before us, like you had to be tough, right?
Right.
You had to be a boss. You had to like put people in their place. And while we certainly have boundaries, for sure, I think there's a level of grace and kindness that we've tried to keep and capture in our style of leadership.
Yeah.
That has really made us bond, right? It's like work before, like we put God first, we hustle, we work hard, but I think there's a level of like kindness and respect that we try to keep and hold on to tight in a really, really hard industry and space.
Yes.
So how have you, and the other thing I wanted to say is, and this is in the Bible too, right? Another thing that I love about you both and your character is like you've been in the industry, but not of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like in it, but not of it. Like you have truly been an example of like not getting caught up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding what it is, right? And knowing how to leverage it and activate it for greater good.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, I mean, talk about pop out a show. It's just, I see, there goes the humility out the window. I mean, Forbes cover. Forbes Morocco cover.
Mhm.
What a beautiful place to like land.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew this was happening. It was hard to keep it a secret for a very long time, by the way. And if you know anything about these ladies, you move stealth and in silence.
Yes.
I mean,
we do.
It's like Beyonce and then Miatta and Massah.
Oh, stop.
No,
Stop
I'm serious. Like, there is no leak before the album release. At 12:01, everyone has signed NDAs. Like, I can't even believe we're here at this table. Right? I mean, shout out to Table's Turn because you just don't do this. And I think about, how you move with so much intention.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the cover to drop this week and to see like the eruption of hundreds of thousands, millions of people reading it, celebrating it, amplifying it, sharing it. How do you
Wow.
Like for real?
You put it that way, geez.
Right. I mean, it's a thing. And because like I think of some of the moments I've had that felt I didn't really stay in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask you for a second to just sit here with me.
Mm.
Like, how do you feel? Like, how do you really feel right now? You're on the cover of Forbes.
Blown
right
away.
Now. Right now.
Blown away.
Blown away.
Blown away.
It just feels unreal.
It does. It feels unreal. And we're so, as you mentioned in your intro, we're so behind the scenes. And for us, sometimes it's uncomfortable to like be in that light and, be seen. So this is like I'm grateful and I'm enjoying it and I'm trying to stay in the moment, but not letting it get to my head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it can.
Yeah. we know what that light can do.
That light.
That light is a beast.
That light is a beast. And I thank God for you.
Yes.
Because you are such a light and inspiration. I know you're going to say, why are you trying to change this? I'm not trying to, but you are such an amazing sister friend that you have encouraged us and forced us to stay in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really important when you have an amazing support system like that to, celebrate your wins.
Yeah.
Because we don't do
key.
that. We don't do that enough.
Honestly.
I think we've heard that iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
But I think also light reflects light.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you all see other people and you can spot a star.
Yeah.
Both. You can spot a star, you know who's next. Massah knows who's next in 100 years. But like, you're true visionaries, but often when you have that type of vision, you're so focused on other people that you can't see it in you. And so I'm blessed to be able to see in you what you've seen in other people. And it's like main character energy.
Right.
Like seriously main character energy, but not for what often is celebrated, right? Like I think often we look to, who's the biggest star in the room or who has a talent like singing or acting or dancing and all these wonderful gifts. And I think sometimes we don't realize that our gift too, right, is being able to build and create things that aren't even here yet. And so for you to grace the cover of Forbes Magazine currently, I'm going to keep popping in for you. Like for you to both be on the cover with your family, with Cat Graham, with Alfonso, your big brother is like, I hope for any young woman watching right now or listening to this to know if you have a gift, it doesn't always have to be in front of the camera. right? Like
Mhm.
sometimes your gifts behind the scenes can take you to the front cover of Forbes, right? But
It's true.
it's a
It's true.
thing,
It's
right?
true.
Like
Yeah.
I think we should celebrate more the women behind the scenes who are crushing it. And so I salute Forbes for putting you on a cover because they really got, like I said it in my post, like they get it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? Like to me, there's room for more. I don't think we replace, but there's definitely room for more creatives, more visionaries, more founders
Yeah.
like you both to be on the cover, right? Not just
Wow.
behind the scenes.
Wow.
But I think, you know what? And I think it's also an evolution just for women in the industry.
Yes.
Especially coming up when we did, it was not cool
Yeah, no.
to be in magazines and be in front of the camera.
Being front-facing.
It was really,
Or date anyone.
or
and-
date
oh,
anyone
don't you
in
do
the-
it.
oh my
it was
goodness.
shied upon. Like
Yeah.
it was like, career suicide almost.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially for women. So I think for us to really evolve and try to get comfortable in this new world that all of us are like adjusting to, and you have to figure out what that looks like for you because it doesn't look the same for everyone. And it has to feel authentic for you. And I think the generation coming after us is like, where are the cameras? Where are the lights? We're going to celebrate ourselves. And I love that. You know?
Yeah.
I love that. They took a different type of energy and but they did it. But
I was
gonna say, but they did it. They flipped it, and I would hope that more of the work behind the scenes is focused on, and less where the cameras, where the lights type of energy.
So that's what I was about. Because so now we have to say the quiet parts out loud.
It's true,
because when we're
though.
not doing a podcast, like we do talk about these things at home together on each other's sofas, and I think. I love what you said, Massah, because I think we definitely went through a period, right? Where we felt like, oh my gosh, the younger generation, they don't get it. They just care about Instagram and likes and TikTok or whatever. And, are they cheating the hustle?
Yeah.
And now I'm where you are. And I think there's a lot to learn
I agree.
from the younger generation.
Absolutely.
Right now, I think for sure they can learn from us, right? No one's going to outwork us ever, right? No one's going to outthink us, hustle us. But sometimes we do that to our own detriment.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right? Like we're not taking the vacations. Often we're not going to the doctor's appointments the way we should, because we are over-indexing on work. So I love that young people are showing us something in the center.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think for me, I just want to make sure that the work and the hard work and what it takes to get to a certain level is not minimized because I think that we would do them a disservice to make them think that it's easy. There's like you mentioned, there is a middle ground, but to think that you can reach a certain level of success without sacrifices, without hard work, without integrity, without outthinking and outsmarting the competition, it's not going to happen.
And I have to go back to the Forbes cover because it matters, right? I think, and if you know anything about Forbes, like you do, right? Anyone watching, I mean, if you don't have the data to back up that cover, if you don't have the story, if you don't have the success rate, if you don't have the receipts, right? There is no cover.
It's not sustainable either.
And it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's goals because I think young women can see, right? Like, there is no elevator to the top, right? If you want like breakthrough success, if you want sustainable, iconic impact, you got to do the work.
You have to do the work.
You have to do the work.
And Instagram is not real life.
It's not the real life.
Yeah, you definitely have to do the work.
It's not real life.
And shout out to Kat, our cousin that we just discovered that was our cousin, and it was
I
really
don't know if
her
we can
vision.
talk about this. Okay, you've got to say this.
Yes.
And we haven't even told the story about it.
Yeah,
we haven't told the story, so you get it first.
Straight to camera.
Massah tells the story so well, so I'll pass it on to her as far as how we found out that Kat was our cousin.
So we were visiting our aunt in North Carolina, and our cousin Leonard says to us, like, have you guys connected with Kat? And we're like, who's Kat? Kat who? And he's like, Kat Graham. And we're like, why would we connect with Kat Graham? He's like, that's your cousin. And we're like, how's that our cousin? He's like, Graham, So we're looking at him like he has 3 heads. Like, what are you talking about? Now, to give you guys context, Liberians, there's like a broken English there that, like, you know, I don't know it's not patois, but it's like, you know, like we have our own little slangs in the way that we talk, and we've always grown up understanding our mother's maiden name is Graham. Charlotte Graham. That's what, like, literally, if it's like, oh, what's your password? Graham. And I would hear them on the phone, like, whoever's on the other line, like, Graham.
Okay.
That's,
Okay.
what are you talking about? And so he's like, Graham, Graham, that's your cousin. That's your first cousin. And we're like,
Mind blown.
mind blown. Like, oh, so it's Graham, it's not Graham. So he tells us that story, and he's like, you got to connect with her. So we're like, okay, well, connect us. He's like, well, I don't have her info, but you guys should try to reach her.
Graham, the superstar.
Exactly.
We're like, call her.
Okay. So he follows up with us, and he's like, staying on us, like, have you guys connected? We're like, no, but, you know, if you're able to reach her, whatever. You know, a year goes past, not thinking about it at all. You and I were all 3 at the Grammys. And we walk past her, and I think I said to you.
Wait, you have to back up 1 second. Talk about the shoe malfunction, because I think the timing of this matters.
There was a lot going on. That's
pouring
right.
rain. You got to give the steps, because this is all God.
So this is why you should also listen to your instinct and trust what you know. We were getting dressed, and you guys told me, I can't say the name of the brand, whatever. It's a well-known brand. Let's just say that.
Yes.
And I was going like, should I wear this? Should I wear that? And Adonis said, no, you should wear those. You should wear those boots. I said, okay.
Shout out to Adonis.
Shout out to the designer boots that were over $1,000. And it's pouring raining that Grammys. And we're walking from the hotel and VVIP with umbrellas, but we're drenched in the rain, walking in puddles, looking crazy. Hot mess. Pull up to the carpet. And all I know is my heel wouldn't agree. And my heel said, no, I'm going this way, when I should be just staying up straight. And I'm walking, hobbling on, like holding on for dear life on the wall. And I hit Adonis like, my shoes falling apart. He's like, I'm on my way. Runs over, brings me another pair of shoes. So I'm in the lobby, wherever we were at the Grammys. What is this? Crypto Arena. And I'm changing my shoes. So all of that is happening while people are walking by. And then finally, I'm
talking thousands of people.
Thousands of people. You walked to your seat. You were like, I need to go sit down. So Miatta's sitting down. And
of course.
Adonis figures it out. I'm switching my shoes, and you and I are walking in.
Yes.
And we walked past her, and I did a double take, and I was like, oh, I think that's her. And I said, Fee, that's her cousin. That's my cousin right there. I think that's her. And you were like, oh, that's right, because you knew the story. We go down to the floor of the Grammys.
Right at the stage.
Right at the stage. We're taking pictures, and she comes down. And we locked eyes.
Yep.
And she's just like, oh, my God, you're so beautiful. And I'm like,
oh, this gives me chills.
So are you. Like, thank you. And she's like, I just had to let you know that. And this is another women supporting women, just
moment.
It takes nothing away from you to give a compliment. But we literally locked eyes. And she's like, you know, you look stunning. And we go back and forth. And I'm like, well, thank you. And it's funny you say this and that we're talking. But actually, we're related. I don't know if you know this. She's like, how are we related? I would love to be related to you. And I tell her the story. I'm like, Joe Graham and, you know, my mom were, you know, brother and sisters. So it turns out her grandfather was our mom's brother. And I start telling her the story, and she's looking at me like, wait, what? She's about to cry. We have a whole moment. I'm like, my sister's here too. Call her, tell her to come over. You come over. That's it.
And this was
lights
this
out
year.
ever since.
This year.
February.
Yeah.
This year. Yeah.
So from February of this year, connecting with your cousin for the first time.
Yes.
Kat Graham, by the way. Like, wow. And then, I mean, like, and when I say cousins, like, not a distant cousin.
Yes.
Right, a second cousin.
Yes.
Second cousins, yeah.
So connecting for the first time to now, 8 months later or less, being on a cover together of Forbes Magazine, not for likes and clicks, but as a family
Mm-hmm.
that centers legacy
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
on one of the biggest publications in the world, I mean, if that's not God, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
It really is.
I'm so proud of you both.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
And this is just the beginning. So as we wind down, anyone out there who's watching who may feel like where you both are is so far away, right? And they're thinking about how do they turn the tables in their own life? Is it too late? Or maybe they feel like, God has forgotten about me. Or maybe they feel like they don't want to disappoint their parents and they're going to stay on this path until the end because they can't ever do what you both have done. What would you say to them as we close out?
I would say you are a great example of exactly what you just said. You took a leap of faith. Look at where we are. This is a seed production. You left corporate America. You trusted in yourself and your vision and what you want to accomplish and the legacy you want to leave behind. And you took a chance on you. You bet on you. It's never, ever too late. I don't care what you've accomplished or what you think you can accomplish. If there's a dream that God has placed in you, you can do it.
Yes.
But you have to act.
You have to act.
You have to act. Acting faith.
Yes.
That's really it. And trusting. Because it comes together. Shout out to Seed Productions.
Yeah.
It's a faith walk.
That's for sure. Faith walk. It's a faith walk.
Yes.
Whatever it is, whatever that nagging feeling is, and you know that it's like, okay, I have this vision and you don't know where this vision came from, that's God. And wherever you are in that moment, understand that there are no mistakes.
Yes.
Like, I still use the skills that I learned at Dow Jones, still to this day in business. So all these different steps are going to lead you to your destiny. So don't look at it as, okay, I'm not where I need to be. Understand that moment is going to help you for your destiny. So I tell people that all the time. Like, I would not be where I am because if I didn't go to NYU, if I didn't go and learn financial journalism and understood that part of it, our business wouldn't work because I wouldn't be able to bring what I bring to the table and serve as kind of that strategist and kind of look at things from a creative lens, but in a different sense. I tell people all the time, preparation is, you have to understand, like, you're in that moment for a reason and don't take it for granted. Yeah.
And don't rush the process.
Ooh, don't rush the process.
Oh, that's good.
Don't trust the process. It's not easy. It's hard, but trusting it and having a strong support system. Because I think being in any industry that you're in, but especially entertainment, you have to have your tribe. We keep each other grounded.
Ooh, yes,
We keep each other sane.
We pray for each other. We strategize with each other. And we trust each other on a different level.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I feel bad for people that don't have that. Because it's
that genuine
it
support.
Keeps you afloat. It keeps you, it gets you to where you're supposed to be.
It's fuel.
It's fuel.
And I think, the tribe and village that we have, we know, right? We give deposits without ever expecting anything in return.
Exactly.
Right? So be a free giver, right? Be an abundant thinker, right? And just know, right? There's enough for all of us.
Yes.
There's zero competition between us and never has been.
No.
And I think for me, I feel so blessed because of exactly what you said, Massah. A lot of people don't have this,
Yeah.
right? And so for anyone who feels like they don't know where to turn, or for anyone watching or listening who feels like they're alone in this journey, I would say get out and find your tribe.
Yes.
Find your people. There are good people, but be a giver, right? Be a giver when you find those folks. Never transactional, and it always comes back. Good people find good people.
Absolutely.
Light
Attracts
reflects light.
Absolutely.
And love reflects love. And so I'm so thankful for you both for being
You too.
here. Episode 2, exclusive.
Hey.
Love you both. Thank you.
Love you too.
And
So proud of you.
congratulations.
Thank you.